Boom, boom. All right. All right, guys, welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can obviously see us here. If you're listening to this on iCoach Nutrition Radio, thanks for listening in. But today I have a very special guest. I love always bringing on kind of the graduates of iCoach Nutrition and all the clients that I've had the pleasure of working with. And so today I get to bring on Jake. I've had the pleasure of working with Jake over the last about a year now, a little over a year. And he's going to come on here and kind of share like his journey of us working together, kind of where he was at, before we started working together and what we've kind of been able to do over the last year. And then what we have kind of looking forward to as he goes off on his own now, if you will. So Jake, without further ado, my man, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, Justin, doing great. Yourself?
Doing well, man. It's Friday. No complaints, right?
Yep.
You got a big day coming up next week, don't you there?
That's right. Yep. Baby
Welcome,
number 2.
Baby number 2. Are you talk to the people here a little bit? Are you obviously excited, but thinking about, this isn't your first rodeo, so you've been through it before, but you and I were joking a little bit, I think last time, about you ready to lose your sleep there for a while.
Yes. Everything I've gained with, what you've trained with, my sleep in the 8-hour range going down the drain, at least for the time being.
The beautiful part about that, though, and this is kind of like what I was thinking about for me as well, because Alex and I are trying to get pregnant with our second as well here, and so I'm like, for me it's like, let me try to like really dial in sleep as much as I possibly can for like the year leading up to delivery, and then knowing that it's gonna really take a hit for like 3 months there, and I can slowly start to recover from it, right? Anyways, well, cool. I don't know, for those of you watching this, obviously Jake's got a great looking t-shirt on there. So repping the squad, I like it. Team iCoach Nutrition. But Jake, I want to ask you kind of, I guess let's kick it off like this. So when you like before we even started working together, kind of give people a little bit of context, like your height, your age, your weight, kind of like what you do. And then really just like where you were kind of at with like your nutrition and fitness and lifestyle habits, if you will, kind of before we got started.
Yeah. So I'm 31 years old now. I think we started when I was 30, and weighing around 210, I believe. I currently work with federal government at the airport. I'm doing security, and let's see. Yeah, health was kind of just all over the place. I was definitely searching for something, anywhere from, the books with like blood work to, calorie cuts or whatever it might be. And so was never really on a consistent path of what I was trying to aim for, I guess. And so goals weren't really consistent there. It was kind of all over the place. So I had gone through a journey of like starting with kind of cutting out the carbs intentionally with the breads and the pastas and all that. So I did lose a significant amount of weight at one point a couple years back, but then kind of went back to where I was with so I ultimately lost about 25, 30 pounds, or no, excuse me. I lost about 40 pounds, was weighing at 230 roughly to about 185. And then over the last 2 years after that loss, I kind of came back to around the 210 range, and definitely wasn't feeling my best and really had no idea what was going on. And I had speculations from doctors of what could be going on. There was a little mention of thyroid problems, but nothing really concrete on that. And so, just searching. And a buddy of mine that I used to work with, he had mentioned you. And so thank God that he brought us together. And yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Eric and Dara there.
Yes.
Rock star graduates of iCoach Nutrition.
Yes.
So I mean, what was the scare, the epiphany there that made you be like, okay, like I need to lose some weight. Like I'm starting to get overweight here. Like maybe even BMI, like maybe even college, maybe the doctor was like, hey, like this is actually like obese based off BMI. Obviously you weren't feeling great. But like, what was it? What was the thing that, I mean, losing 40 pounds, regardless of how you do it, is a challenge for a lot of people. We always hear like people don't necessarily have as much trouble losing weight as they do like actually keeping the weight off. So having that weight be gained back, I mean, that's pretty common, especially with some of those like bad diets, if you will. But essentially, you were like, you just cut carbs. That was kind of like the diet, if you will, right? Which essentially just lowered your overall calorie intake, brought you into a calorie deficit. That's what made you lose the weight, as you've kind of learned now, right? But what was the thing that happened? Like, what made you, like, it happened just in a day? It was a shift, or it was like kind of a gradual thing? Like, what made you start changing some parts of your lifestyle there?
Yeah. No, it was just our daughter she just turned 1, and I was like, been wanting more kids, and so I was like, well, having our first one was kind of troubling. We didn't have her right away. It took us a few years to get pregnant, and we definitely wanted to keep it more of a, I guess you say, holistic way of conceiving. And so being able to I was just looking for something. So with the second child, we wanted to kind of do the same thing. We didn't want to have interventions per se. Not that there's wrong with that, but we just for ourselves didn't want that. And so between that and just wanting to be in a fit shape for my kids, I don't want to have, be this overweight person that was just, struggling to, lift my kids up or run with them or whatever it might be, or even protect them, I guess. And so being able to realize that, what I was doing at the time wasn't working. And so I needed to do something to figure it out. And I had attempted things, but nothing was really happening. So, it was a matter of maybe a couple of weeks. And then I finally was like, I remember Eric telling me about somebody, yourself, obviously. And so I called up with him, asked him how, it was going, if he was still training with you or not. And, just what he was thinking. And he's like, oh yeah, Justin's the man, he knows what he's doing. And, he got into a lot, and I already knew Eric was in great shape before I know he met you. And so you just took him to a whole new level. And so, that, excited me to see that, at least I know what you're doing, and, you have a clear mind path of what we're going. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I appreciate that, obviously. So, I mean, really, to sum that up, it was like having your first child. I mean, that was really the thing that motivated you. And we've talked a lot about that over the last year, with me having my first child as well. And, I think for a lot of dads out there, like, it becomes a huge why factor for them, right? Like, and so, sometimes they might lose sight of that, but like ultimately it's always something that we come back to, hopefully.
Right.
So when we first started, like, what were some of like the biggest like eye-opening things for you? Obviously, like, we've built a lot of awareness over the last year, right? With your habits, nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits, with mindset, right? And so for you, like, when we first started and we first went kind of through that initial assessment process, what were some of the things that you were like, okay, like, I didn't even realize I was doing these things wrong? Or because, for you, it's like you had lost weight, which that's a big accomplishment on your own, but then the weight starts coming back. And so it's like a psychological like warfare of like, oh my God, what's going on? Why am I gaining this weight back? Like, I don't know, like, you have unanswered questions, right? So when we first started, what were some of like the big like game changers that we made, and like game changing habits that we changed there from the very beginning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say the topic that came to mind first was one, just setting a goal, like having a set goal, like, hey, this is what we're aiming for as far as calories, weight, knowing our count with protein and calories and fat. So just really breaking that down to know what it is I need to be doing to get to where I'm going. And so if I didn't know those things, this wasn't really going to go anywhere if I just focus on one thing or another. So that was one of the top ones. And then, kind of bringing that down was the plate method, knowing the breakdown of our vegetables versus our carbs and our proteins. And then the workouts was another huge thing. Same thing with the goals, but then also just with having a set track of like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing as far as each week, and how it kind of breaks down to the next week and to the next phase and so on. I think another big one that was in the beginning was what was one of the one I had? But and then sleep. Be able to understand that sleep is. I mean, I think we all kind of know that sleep is pretty crucial, but to really know, you broke it down. You gave me I think it was like an article or something like that kind of broke down what sleep actually does for you and what, or lack of, and what kind of health concerns it can have. If you can't really get the sleep you need, you're not going to get anywhere with your weight or with your actual health overall. So it was just those key things were the ones that were, right away, boom, that's one of the things we got to focus on.
Yeah. When you like if you looked at like a food picture log, right? Like a 7-day food picture log of like your most recent week, right? One of your most recent weeks now, a year later. And then like we went back to the very beginning when we first started and looked at like the very first week of assessment, right?
Yeah.
If we did that side by side comparison, like some of the big things that come up there for sure is like we definitely got you eating more vegetables and fruits for sure, right? You definitely started like cooking more of your own food and eating out less. You definitely started like eating an adequate amount of protein consistently, and really just like the overall like presentation of your plates, right? Like if I asked you now, if I gave you the 2 weeks there and said, hey, which week do you want to eat like what do you want your nutrition to look like? Like I think your nutrition now, from a visual standpoint, from a plate presentation standpoint, like it just not only does it like look better in terms of like actually like looking good and healthy for you, but also like just even like your cooking skills and your ability like getting better, right? Because as we talked about, we met up and did like a little like grocery shopping workshop together, I guess you could call it, right? And so like getting better at grocery shopping, getting better at cooking, meal prepping, those are huge tools to have, because a lot of people don't feel confident in that, and therefore, because they don't feel confident with it, it now becomes, I think of like something you buy from IKEA and you have to like put it together yourself. You're like looking at the instructions and you're like, oh my God, there's so much going on here, right? This is going to take forever. Right? So it's overwhelming. So that's why people are like, they make up these stories of like, well, eating healthy is too expensive, or doing meal prep takes too long, or whatever. But it's just because they haven't gotten the skill set down yet,
Right. Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. So as we move forward, kind of, through that assessment and through, months and months and months there, like, what would you say were like some of your biggest struggles that you had kind of along the way? Like, I mean, obviously, like working together for a year, like that's why we need to work with, like when we work with the coach, it can't just be like a one and done meal plan, right? It's got to be like an actual coaching process, because you've been able to now go through all of these like seasons of life, right? Like whether it was like with work or whether it was like with having a baby, like, but all these different things, all these different challenges, like all this essentially adversity that you have to overcome in order to like still work towards transforming your life at the same time, right? Because this isn't the only thing you were focused on, right? You had a lot of other things going on as well, right? So
Right.
what were some of those challenges for you, man? Like what, I think people listening to this can definitely resonate with that in terms of saying like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Right.
If it was easy to live a healthy lifestyle, everybody would be doing it. But it's not. It's simple when we talk about like the big rocks, right? Sleep, nutrition, exercise, hydration, stress management. But like it's hard to execute on. It's hard to be consistent with, right? So what were some of those big struggles for you, Jake?
Well, definitely those ones I just named were all big struggles in the beginning. Being able to, I think it was the first part where I wasn't really getting the sleep I needed, and so it was, it wasn't until you kind of broke it down. Hey, this is why we really need to get the sleep. So that was definitely one in the beginning. Getting that plate method down, man, that was definitely a tough one. I think I made too much a priority of what was more desirable to eat than it was to actually was desirable for my body and its healing and its overall health. And then workouts, I was definitely struggling with in the beginning. I was kind of maybe doing once, twice a week at most, if that. And it was just kind of all over the place. There wasn't consistency of what days I was working out on. And so it was having no plan, or I had a plan, but having the execution to do what I needed to do was not there. And so overall, we're just, overall in the beginning was a struggle. And then that was one that I was thinking of that you were mentioning. But yeah, ultimately those three were just the ones that focus on were the ones I was struggling with in the beginning. So it was kind of a take a step back, kind of review why I'm doing these things of changes, and then also to realize that this needs to, maybe like you did, it was like focus on one at a time here. Let's just get the sleep part down. Like, okay, got that down. Let's get this workout down. Okay, and then oh, we got this all down now. Okay, let's keep on going with it. So just baby steps and getting to the next phase of what to be focusing on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like you brought up a great point there, which is like, what do so many people try to do, right? When they start trying to like live a healthier lifestyle, they try to like do a complete overhaul, right? Like they
Yeah.
try to like do like change everything and they go from like, doing nothing to trying to do everything, right? It's like one extreme to the other. And so it's not like if you first come to me and I present it in a way where it's like we're gonna do one thing at a time, it's gonna be super super slow. I mean, that's not like a sexy approach. It's not like most people want results yesterday, right? So, but at the end of the day, it's like if you look into building a habit, the science of building a habit, like the psychology of it, it's like it is a long process. It's not 20. You don't build a habit in 21 days or whatever, like you hear out there. Like, I mean, maybe some people can build habits faster than others, but the process depends on every single person uniquely. I mean, they're all individual and everybody has a different life that they're living. So how fast you adopt a habit is going to it's going to differentiate across the board there.
Right.
But the process of, essentially references like habit stacking is that right there, right? If you're able to stack, like you get one habit down, you got sleep down, right? Then it's like, let's get this next habit, then the next habit. And you're climbing the habit staircase, if you will, right? Habit
Yeah.
stacking. So I think that's something that a lot of people should think about listening to this podcast is to like, if I'm not getting the results that I want, maybe I'm trying to do too much, right?
Right.
Like, and maybe most importantly, are you actually tracking the things that you're doing? Like we have the habit tracker, right? And so we had
Right.
proof. It was black and white. Like we knew exactly that, hey, here's the data. Data doesn't lie, right? And
Right.
so it's like being able to assess that and actually gauge how consistent you're actually being. Because
Right.
us as human beings, myself included, we like to how do I call it? We like to fabricate stories in our own head about what is going on when we don't have the data to actually assess there, right? It's kind of, I think about like finances. It's like not having a budget, right, and wondering where all the money's going or something, right? Like
Right.
so that data piece is crucial there for sure. So I guess before we progress into that, one question I always ask, and I'm always curious on the question here. When you like obviously you were basically a referral from somebody else, right? So referrals are always the best, right? Um, but like even there, even with the referral, right? Like if there's like a financial component, right? You're investing in yourself, like, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's really cheap. Like you can get $99 meal plans or like pay $10 a month for your macros or whatever, right? So like I know for you, you had to go, you had to talk to your wife about it. Like it's an investment in yourself. Like why did you choose to invest in yourself? Like how did you validate spending that much money and investing on yourself?
Long term. I just saw that, this isn't just a quick thing that was to fix whatever. It wasn't something just to learn and it'd be used for a month or two. It was like the long term. And I know I was going to learn a lot. I was going to be able to, just not help myself, but my family and leading them to the direction they need to go with their health. And so it was just the long term goal was just that I know I can just do this on my own now. And I know how to read, labels on food. I know how to go and work out. I know how to go and teach my kids what is right, what's wrong to be, feeding myself and feeding ourselves. And so I think the biggest thing was just the long-term goal, just understanding that this wasn't going to just be a short, quick fix, but a long-term, and that it was a doable one. It wasn't something too complicated. It was something that was just natural.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's awesome that you had that experience at such a young age, like you could have waited till you're 40, 50, 60 before you decided to do that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately sometimes it's like too late, especially on the kid side of things by then, right?
Right.
So as we go through the journey here, man, and especially like as of late, we had, essentially like based off looking at all the data that we had to assess, right? There was like some potential, there were some symptoms, like we started kind of digging into the thyroid more, right? And that was like kind of the last, as the latest part of this journey here. Can you share a little bit more about kind of the, what happened in terms of like the symptoms, and then once we went to the doctor and kind of what we're kind of escalated from there.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how to mention that, but so yeah, in the beginning, probably about, I guess this was about a couple months after I meeting with you. Um, there was our, my annual blood work being done, and my thyroid came up again, showing that it just wasn't my TSH levels and my I think it was my free T3, but they weren't where they're supposed to be. They were way out of range, and it kind of added some things up with, I didn't have a lot of symptoms for my thyroid, but there was the main few, just kind of feel foggy minded, but I didn't know this was like a sleep. And there was just low energy. I couldn't last that long throughout the day if I needed to, whether it be working out or with just being at work. And then there were some other just discomforts I had that were just, kind of holding me back. And so after seeing that, I got into the medication, and that was kind of towards the beginning when I first started meeting with you. And then, so that kind of led the breakdown of how to really also address our daily habits of how I'm eating and everything, to know how can I withdraw from the medication, or to at least to a minimum, until things got to a back to, like I said, norm per se. But did I answer that question though?
Yeah, well, and so we had, I guess that was kind of like the beginning of the whole process there. But then
Yep.
so that, that was just TSH, right? And that was the only thing that the conversation was really around. Then, as we kind of looked into it deeper, especially like on the autoimmune side of things, right? That's
Right.
when the conversation of, really, and as I always tell you, and just for the listeners of the podcast, like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an endocrinologist, none of that, but I'm not a registered dietitian. But at the same time, because of my awareness of all of these things, I was able to essentially kind of like see some symptoms there. And then, we were able to like look into things a little bit deeper in regards to, well, you only got TSH tested, right? You didn't get free T3, free T4, reverse T3, and most importantly, you didn't get the antibodies tested.
Right.
And so you got antibodies. You went to the doctor. You got antibodies tested, and what happened then?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it seemed like I guess the doctor didn't see like you pointed out, is you saw other symptoms that wasn't adding up as far as just my recovery from everything, even with the healthy eating and lifestyle change. But so that brought the attention, and of course, the doctor wasn't too sure about it, but she's like, okay, well, we'll go with it. And so we did, and to the antibody test and the TPO and the TGAB, and my TGAB seemed to be fine, but the TPO just skyrocketed, was nowhere near where it needed to be in the range. So yeah, it came out to be that of Hashimoto's.
Yeah. So and that was, I mean, you're like, once you get those levels back there, and obviously seeing antibodies as high as they were, right, and then getting confirmed not only low thyroid, but now high, Hashimoto's there. So now it's an autoimmune piece. And remind me again, she said, like, because she asked, she was like, why did he even like bring that up in the first place? Like, why did he even ask? Um, what was kind of the conversation around that? What she said?
Yeah. So originally, before I even taking it, I was, hey, I wanted to get this addressed. My nutritionist is saying, hey, this is something that's not seem to be right, and I just be checked, and she just didn't see. She didn't seem to see the importance of it. She just, well, this is what we normally do. But she's not gonna. She didn't argue at all. She just was more or less curious as to why. It just didn't make sense to her. I don't know. It was really weird. And so after the results came back, she asked again. I'm like, well, the way I'm reacting to certain foods, or the way I'm, going about my lifestyle, some things aren't really or where they're supposed to be at this point with how I've been taking care of myself. And so she said, oh yeah, well, it kind of makes sense now. And she kind of went off with saying that, well, you need to eliminate, as the gluten, the soy, and the dairy. And it's kind of weird because I was like, well, if you know that, then why wasn't that something that would maybe be addressed in the beginning to be able to help me? I mean, this is a possibility, knowing that it's something that needs to go to that extreme to change my diet. Then why would that be something that would be wanted to be checked in the beginning? So, yeah, I don't think the intentions were bad there on her end, but it was just kind of odd and unfortunate because it wasn't spent some time just to not know that I could be somewhere else in my health and taking care of myself, maybe not be as high as a level with all these different areas. So, yeah, just being able to, the new transition of being dairy free now, soy free, and gluten is just a whole new change here. When we,
Yeah, I mean, I was I wish I could say I was shocked at the occurrence, but I'm not. I see it, I see it so often. And again, nothing against them. Like there's just, as I always say, not everybody's created equal. Right? There's not just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you're as good as some other doctors. And same thing with me and like personal trainers and PTs and all that, right? So I think the thing that we talked about a lot, and I really wanted to empower you with, is like, you have to be your own advocate, right? Like you can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to listen to, I mean, even me, right? You can't listen to, I mean, take stuff in, but like ultimately you got to do your own due diligence. You've got to make sure that, you're educating yourself. And if this is a condition that you have and that you're now living with, right? And maybe you've been living with, you just didn't know, right? And so it's like now, like it's a lifestyle change for you, right? Even more so. And the beautiful part about it is like, yes, I wish we would have known that we needed to remove gluten and dairy and soy there from the very beginning. But with that said, I'm excited to see like what the next 6 months, what the next year looks like with that, and how you can see improvements and lowering those antibodies down. Because as I shared with you, I had a client that I worked with. We were working, again, obviously with a doctor. But when we worked together, she was able to, and this was, the doctor said, reverse Hashimoto's, which I don't know why she said that. I would think it's some false hope. I don't really think you necessarily reverse it, right? I think you learn, like you're able to like better live with it, right? So, but yeah, the doctor said that, because the antibody levels, I believe, I got to think back, but I think it was like 70 or something like that, and we like brought it all the way down to like less than 10. And so it was a significant change there. Her doctor was shocked, and it was done through nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits there, right? So the beautiful part about that is now knowing and having that awareness, and then also like we've done so much work on the things that you do have control over, like the nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits, right? And so it's not like it's this crazy drastic change. It's just, I mean, you were already doing everything you need to do. Now it's just putting a little bit more emphasis on, hey, sleep's kind of been a little bare minimum. We really need to get that top end, especially knowing where we're at, right? And then also knowing the food components there with the soy and the gluten and dairy. So, yeah, man, I just think that at the end of the day, it's like, if you're doing all the right things the majority of the time, and you're not feeling your best, you're not looking your best, you're not performing your best, then and you've been doing that for a consistent amount of a year, right? Then you gotta dig deeper, because maybe there's something else going on. And not all the time, but in this case, that was the truth there. So yeah, all that's to say. So I guess like what I want to share here is, if you think about like the whole journey here, Jake, like over the last year or so, like what are some of like your biggest takeaways from the process? Like what are the things like just top of mind right now that you're like, yeah, I mean, these are the things I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Like I always say the big rocks. Like Jake, what are your big rocks in your life? Like what are the things you're going to prioritize for the rest of your life going forward?
right. I think it's recognizing discipline and knowing that I need to be disciplined consistently, and not being able to let go of my sleep schedule outside of having a child. Be able to have the plate method, even though I might not always be measuring it, knowing that, hey, if I have these portions, this is what's going to be able to take me into continuing a healthy lifestyle. And then just working out, getting that 3 to 4 minimum workouts a week, and not laying up. Maybe if I get to a goal where I want to be, and just being consistent with that, maybe not to be to a superstar weight trainer, but at the point where I'm able to maintain and to, like you always say, be able to get off the toilet when I'm 80 years old. So be able to just have that consistency, I guess, and have that lifestyle too, where I'm able to be a leader for my family and our healthy lifestyle. So
I love that, man. That's amazing. I love that. Did you? I got to ask the question. I think you kind of hated working out when we first started. Do you like working out a little bit more now? Are you enjoying it? Are you getting stronger? You feel like you're putting on some more muscle? Like, are you kind of like? I mean, if I was to say, hey, like, can you work out 3 to 5 days a week for the rest of your life? Like, is that something that you're like, yeah, like I want to do that. I see the value in
Yeah. No, definitely in the beginning it was a struggle. I can't really recall what it was that made it a struggle, but it definitely was not something I was like looking forward to doing. But once I got out of that mindset and just being, this is something I have to do, and being able to do it after about a week or two, I was like, okay, now I want to do this. It became exciting, like to go out and work out the next day, and to just see the gains. I worked out a lot back in high school when I was playing sports, and so being able to see those, as you mentioned about having the muscle memory, being able to see those, I understand it's not a forever thing, but in the beginning, the quick gains back to not where I was in high school, but getting a lot closer to what I was. So it was made it more exciting to want to go work out and to be consistent with it. So
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing what happens when we like start prioritizing sleep and like nutrition, right? Because I mean, if you're like a lot of the times, like if people aren't wanting to go to the gym, it's probably because they're freaking stressed and tired and feel like crap. And the last thing they want to do is go exert themselves more, you know? So you kind of gotta get yourself to a place to where you feel good and you have the energy and you want to go and work out, right? I mean, that's what I always tell people all the time. I'm like the healthier of life that you live outside of the gym, the more you're gonna enjoy
yeah,
the gym, right? Because like it's gonna be more of like that athlete feel. It's going to be more of like fueling to perform. It's going to be more of like embracing living like an active, healthy lifestyle, which, by definition, living a healthy lifestyle definitely requires you to be active, right? At least
right,
as much as you possibly can be there. So
right.
I love it, man. That's awesome. For Jake, what about people that maybe they've listened to this podcast and other podcasts and they've seen you know y'all's post call updates and wins and like I don't know, maybe they've been on the fence for a while, right? Like maybe they keep trying to like consume information, right? Maybe they keep trying to like figure it out on their own, and maybe they've came to like the spot where they realize like if they were gonna do it on their own, they would have already done it by now, right? Kind of like maybe where you were at a year ago. What's your advice, man? Like, what's your advice for those people that are on the fence, thinking about maybe working on one-on-one with a coach, but for
Mm.
whatever reason hasn't pulled the trigger yet?
I think you said earlier, I think it's just really identifying your why. And I don't know, that's what it was for me. Just once you have that why and understand what it is that you're wanting to do, if it's not just for yourself, but for your family, those around you. I mean, and being that example, that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to be able to motivate you to get where you want to go. I mean, if that's what you want. I mean, it's just, it really comes down to your why. If you don't know what it is or don't have one, how can you get anywhere to, being consistent to having a, overall healthy lifestyle or really in any aspect in life, whether it be business or spiritually or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I love that, man. Well, dude, shoot, I guess I definitely want to respect your time here. I guess the last question I have for you is what were your, like, we talked a little bit kind of like about those struggles along the journey, reflecting back on this last year. Obviously we got a lot to do kind of going forward there, right? But with kind of this new awareness that has been built. But what have been like some of the biggest wins for you through this process, right? And like really those wins are like what motivate us and excite us and want us to continue doing it and to live this lifestyle. Well, so what were some of those, like you think about through the whole journey, what were some like the wins that you got that were motivating you, that motivated you to want to keep getting better and progressing?
Okay. Yeah. So back to the workouts, being able to see those gains. I mean, that made it more exciting. How I felt with, changing my plate method, feeling amazing, being to know I could have those days where maybe I do go out to eat somewhere and have whatever I want, that once, twice a week, it made it more enjoyable. And then just the sleep, feeling great, not having to feel tired, which made it, of course, easier to go work out. Be able to, especially after being with you, to go to kind of that, like you said, the workshop with going to the grocery store and kind of learning more of what it is I need to be looking at as far as ingredients and as far as, what can make things more affordable, that made it a lot easier, and wanted to, assist my wife in that and be able to, or just do it on my own. And then, your encouragement to want to go work out or go cook. I mean, be able to just take over things for myself. I know my wife's really appreciated that a lot. And so be able to go and just not have to worry about her being home, and I just cook something up for myself or for my daughter, or even for my wife, and just be able to, go through my day not having to worry about what I need to be preparing for. I just know I have it. And then another key thing I know I didn't mention earlier was be able to, prep the night before, be able to understand, okay, what it is I need to be making things easier for myself tomorrow, and just knowing, okay, well, I'll eat this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner, and whatever's next in between, and what it is to be able to have those gains to, like I said, the macros, and to the, my proteins and carbs and my fats, just be able to easily just, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna have, and not have to really think about it and waste time, processing what it is I'm gonna be eating, but just knowing, hey, this is what it's going to be.
No, I love that, man. I was, as you were talking there, I was kind of like laughing in my head a little bit, because I was like, man, I bet Jake is so sick and tired of hearing me say the words plan and consistency, because he's probably heard me say those two words more than anything else throughout this journey. But it's like, dude, plan. I mean, as you know now, right? Like, it's like failure to plan is planning to fail. That became a famous quote however long ago for a reason, right? So I love it, man. And honestly, it's no different for me, right? Like, yes, you get more intuitive with things for sure. Like, you're putting reps in, right? Just like in the gym, right? You adapt, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, even me, like, I have to plan too. Like, if I don't plan, then, especially for things that are outside of my element, outside of my environment, right? Like, going and going to a wedding, or like going on vacation, or like traveling, or like, those things that get you out of your own like normal, day-to-day thing there. So love that, man. I did have one more question. This is a short
Yeah.
answer, but I always like to ask this one too, which is, the question becomes, right? Like it doesn't matter what diet or program or whatever it is out there that y'all want to do. For those that are listening, the thing that matters is if I ask Jake this question right now, do you feel like you can live this lifestyle for the rest of your life? And if the answer is yes, like, I've done my job. Like, Jake graduates, like, send him off, right? But if that's not the case, then that's a problem, right? And so many of you that are doing keto and whatever diet under the sun there, can you do that for the rest of your life? And if the answer is no, then why the hell are you doing it in the first place? So yeah, Jake, can you do everything we've worked out in these habits, this lifestyle? You feel like you can live this forever?
Oh, definitely. And in the day, it's really an easy thing. It's so weird, because it's not hard to grasp what you're teaching. It's just a matter of just doing it. And so really it's easy. It's just like basic living, but somehow I, for myself, made it complicated. And so you've just made it the easiest thing in the world. And it's a matter of just me being the one to be disciplined and just continue doing it. So definitely, yes, it's been an easy thing to want to do for the rest of my life.
Love it. I love it. Well, Jake, I've told you this already, but congratulations for officially graduating iCoach University, my man. Super excited for you. And again, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I really appreciate your time. Is there any final words of encouragement or anything final you want to say for those that have made it this far in the podcast thus far?
Well, for one, I want to tell you I appreciate you so much, and especially not just what but just your leadership and your example. I mean, like I've mentioned to you before, earlier this year when you decided to kind of lead by example, and you're working out for yourself, it made it even more exciting and more motivating to want to do what we do when seeing you do it. And so just to let people know, like, you don't have somebody that's going to just talk, but just do. And so you've been great at doing that and being able to be that example for us. And I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that too. As we hear, right, it's like you gotta, if you're gonna talk about it, you gotta be about it. And selfishly as a coach, and I know all the other coaches listening to this could agree. It's like, selfishly for us, I mean, y'all hold us accountable, right? Like, us, social media, that holds us accountable, right? And I mean, we're human beings too, right? So we need accountability just as much as everyone else does. And so, you know, it works both ways there. But I think like that's what it's all about, you know, building a community of like-minded individuals. You know, there's like the reason why things have became so complicated is because there's a million different people out there saying a million different things, right? Like it does get super crazy confusing and you have a million different things in your head, right? But as you start to filter out the BS and you start to simplify the things that actually matter, right? Like that's when you start to move the needle there, because now you're focused mainly on consistency, right? Rather than like having, you know, a million different things to focus on, or, you know, all these like second guessing yourself as to like, well, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing it? Right. So I love it, man. Well, dude, thank you so much again, man, for taking the time. And yeah, man, until, well, baby's coming next week. So dude, praying for you, excited for y'all. It's going to be, I mean, you want 4 kids, so I'm not worried about you at all.
Right. Number 2.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jake, again, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you. And yeah, hopefully everybody listening to this got value out of it. And yeah, guys, let us know if you have any questions at all with this podcast. You can just shoot me a DM at Coach Justin Murphy on Instagram. And I would love to answer any questions y'all may have. So, Jake, thank you so much, my man. Really appreciate you. And yeah, we'll stay in touch here for sure.
That's good. Thank you.